Welcome back for another video. There's been some incredible rank gains made by the experts these last few weeks. Not so much at the very top last week, it was 44 points by Andrew Moore, but still 721st in the world. However, I was looking through the rest of the list and there's 8 experts in this series that are top 10k already, and there's 28 already in the top 50k, so some incredibly strong ranks at this stage of the season with the vast majority of chips still to go. Could be the most stacked season ever in the series. Anyway, as always, we'll go through the players the top managers are buying and selling, the experts team, captaincy and all those good things. If you want to benefit from data from top all-time managers, make sure you subscribe. For Gameweek 28, there's a lot more transfers being made compared to last week. Only 14% are going to roll, in fact. 40% are making 1 transfer, 33% making 2, 10% are making 3, and there's 3 experts making 4+ transfers. Despite all of those transfers being made, there's only 2 -4 hits being taken this week, that's it. So, who are they buying? Who are they selling? Number 1 this week is Van Dijk, who's returned 17 and 11 points in his last 2 games, and he's just a few points off team of the season now, in fact. Here's the team of the season as it stands. So it's Raya, Gabriel, Timber, Gueye, Semenyo, Rice, Bruno Fernandes, Bruno G, Haaland, João Pedro and Thiago. If you'd picked that team before Gameweek 1 and forgot your password or not touched it, set and forget, with Haaland captain, you'd be 13th in the world without any chips used. Obviously not actually possible because we've got quadruple Arsenal, but you'd still be at least top 20 if you went Van Dijk over Timber. Probably actually higher with auto subs. The line that the majority of the experts have mapped out is to dead end your team into Gameweek 31, so to sell any assets from Arsenal, Man City, Palace and Wolves, and then wildcard in Gameweek 32 to set up for the big double Gameweek 33, bench boost in that double Gameweek 33, and then free hitting blank Gameweek 34 straight after. So Van Dijk is perfect for that strategy. He's got no blank at 31 and he's got good fixtures leading into it. Brentford also tick that box. They've got Burnley, Bournemouth, Wolves and Leeds their next 4. And Dango is the second top transfer with 26% buying, 25% buying Thiago. Surprisingly, no one looking at Sharda though, and no experts are looking at Brentford defenders or Kelleher this week either. Wilson is the joint 3rd most bought with Thiago at 25% as well. So let's compare those budget mids for a sec. A lot of us are thinking about replacements for Sarr, for Enzo, for Rice. The main ones in the conversation are Sharda, Wilson, Tavernier, Dango and Ryan. And that's their ranking in terms of non-penalty expected goal involvement this season. They're all 5 to 6 million except Sharda at 6.9 mil, but he does win for XGI. Bournemouth lead in terms of projected goals for the next 4 games with 7.1 goals, and then Brentford on 6.6 and then Fulham 6.2. However, the nuance with Bournemouth being top is, will Tavernier get good minutes in both of the next 2 games when they play twice in like 3 days, plus he's just back from injury. And then Ryan's a bit of an unknown quality, like he looks a really good raw talent, passing the eye test. It's a limited sample size with his data, but 183 minutes per expected goal involvement ranks him about the same as Sharda this season. Though with Wilson there's the free kick duties, and when Jimenez is off the pitch he's possibly on penalty duties as well. There was a remarkable find on the FPL Analytics Discord where he took a penalty in pre-season when Lukic was on the pitch, who was the other possible taker. So Wilson could indeed be next in line for penalties, which is worth noting given Raul's early subs. Muniz has never taken a penalty in his career, so we expect it won't be him. Who's your favourite of the 5 there? If I could only buy one of those 5 for the next 4 game weeks, it'd be Wilson. Though if you've got the scope for 2, then Dango looks great with the fixture this week, Burnley, and then Wilson either this week or in Gameweek 29 looks great. You could actually even wait until Gameweek 31 to get Wilson. I think Sharda's potentially been overlooked as well. Some other most bought picks this week: 13% Hill, 3% Ekatike, Semenyo, Ryan, Tavernier, O'Reilly and Mbumo. And some other most sold players are 23% dropping Timber, most of those go into Van Dijk. 10% selling Rice and Munoz, 8% Sarr, 7% João Pedro, and then it's Palmer, Bowen, Chalobah, Mukiele and Alderete. Mukiele posted on Instagram saying it doesn't matter how long it will take with regards to his injury, and then he said, I promise you one thing, I will be back stronger. So it doesn't sound great as far as his injury there. Sunderland have got Newcastle away in Gameweek 31 anyway, where you ideally wouldn't want to be using a Sunderland defender anyway. Experts captaincy next for Gameweek 28, and it's just 2 names really. Haaland with 62% captaincy and Bruno 36%, and then there's 1 captaincy on Ekatike and 1 on O'Reilly. I mean, the safe pick for rank security is definitely Haaland. I think he's going to be a fair bit over 100% effective ownership. However, Bruno does provide significant upside against the Palace side that are going to have to play in Europe 3 days before that game. It sounds like the quad does have a chance of making that game, maybe even the European game. Glasner was asked about him ahead of their Europa Conference League game, and he said, "There is still a small question mark with Maxence. He trained the session today, that was on Wednesday. In a few situations he could feel a little bit of weariness, but he looks okay. We now have a little more than 30 hours to kick off with treatment and everything." Though even if he does make the game, like, Bruno's still a very, very good captain this week. If you're chasing the upside, he's your man. Or if you're happy to consolidate this week, then Haaland. FPL review projections might surprise you. It's Salah just top on 6.9, home to West Ham in fairness. Bruno 6.8, Haaland 6.3. So there's a 0.5 gap there from Bruno to Haaland in third place, which is notable. And then it's Thiago, and then it's Ekitike further behind Haaland. Who are you guys going with this week? Moving on to the experts team for Gameweek 28, and there's quite a few changes to bring to you for this game week. The team is still 3-5-2, and it's Raya, Hill, Gabriel, Van Dijk, Bruno, Wilson, and Mbumo, Rice, Rodgers, Thiago and Haaland. And on the bench it's Dubravka, Anderson, Alderete and Gue. So Raya replaces Verbruggen, Hill replaces Mukiele, Van Dijk replaces Timber, and Wilson replaces Enzo. How many players have you got from the new experts template? Incredibly strong looking team this week, and they're largely happy to keep hold of Rice for that Chelsea home game. He's still at 60% ownership, so that is something to consider if you're looking at selling. He's not a definite sell this week. Fortunately, Dubravka's got Fulham away in blank Gameweek 31, which isn't too bad. Now don't get me wrong, he probably concedes, gets some save points, but it's good enough to not necessarily need to use a transfer and goal there. Like in past seasons, we've not had the luxury of a 4 mil nailed backup keeper that plays every week, and that's forced a goalkeeper transfer in blank game weeks in past seasons, which is not the most optimal way to use a valuable transfer, is it? And there's a reason that we spend transfers the least in goal, but obviously in past seasons it's worth it when you're down to 10 players otherwise. So looking at this team, there's only 4 blankers for 31, or 5 if we include Gue, who won't play most likely. So that'd be Raya, Gabriel, Rice, Haaland and Gue that blank at 31. That's a good position to be in if you're similar, with obviously a transfer to come in 29, in 30 and 31, plus whatever you got this week. That could bring it to a full 11 that plays quite easily. It's really important to check how you could line up in Gameweek 31 and ensure that you're spending free transfers where you should be. If you get to Gameweek 31, you've got 9 players that will play and 1 free transfer, then you could end up on a -8 just because of a lack of proper planning. FPL is a game of planning ultimately, and it's a big part of doing well in this game. Ekitike is worth a mention as well. He's at 50% ownership. Exactly half the experts have him, and he's a few percent higher than the likes of Mbumo, Rodgers and Wilson, but we have to keep the experts team within budget. And there's also just no high-owned midfielders around the same price as Gue if he was to drop out the team for Ekitike. So yeah, 35-2 again. Dango comes in at 32% ownership, and he's well on his way to making the team as well. Maybe in 29 he'll join. Which, by the way, starts on Tuesday, so it's a rapid turnaround from 28 to 29, which is great. We love non-stop FPL. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the Gameweek 29 edition of the experts either. Final thoughts and tips. This is what the experts wanted to say to you ahead of the Gameweek 28 deadline. FPL Fady says, like everyone else, I am debating the merits of Wilson v Dango v Ryan v Tavernier. I'm leaning towards Wilson for now, but it could still change, and I could still bring Dango now and bring in Wilson for blank Gameweek 31 when he's got the best fixture. I may yet take a hit for Anderson or Nico Raleigh if we get negative news on Mukiele, as I already have a dead spot in defence, and I don't fancy navigating the next few weeks with just 3 defensive players. Talking of O'Reilly, I'm not completely against the idea of bringing in a Man City players at this stage. If the Palace game does end up in 31, they arguably have the best next 4 fixture run. If the European draw on Friday gives Man City, Real Madrid and Crystal Palace Mainz, it judges up the odds of 31 not being a blank, and O'Reilly and Semenyo come up into my plans. And Paul says, except whichever cheap midfielder you buy is going to be outscored by whichever cheap midfielder you considered but ultimately didn't choose to get. Keys to a happy life. Alex says, I've dumped all 3 of my Chelsea players. While João Pedro has been excellent for me, he's got a bit lucky with those penalty assists. I'm backing Thiago with Brentford's good fixture run. The big change is moving off doubled Arsenal defence. It's just not worth it at the moment, and Timber isn't generating enough points to justify his price. But it is a risk given how many teams still have double Arsenal defence. And lastly, Stuart Brand is comfortable buying O'Reilly despite the blank. He says, I moved to O'Reilly as it's still giving me 10 for 31, so I can make it 11 by Gameweek 31 with the intention to wildcard in Gameweek 32. Thank you for watching. Tom's team selection will be out first thing Friday morning, and I'll be live in the evening for the deadline stream. See you soon for the next one.